This presentation is on Indicator 6, Preschool Environments for Students with IEPs ages 3 to 5. This presentation goes over what Indicator 6 is and why it's important. Additionally, because the federal government made changes to Indicator 6, Massachusetts needs to set new targets and baselines. As a result, this presentation also summarizes the existing targets and baselines to provide a basis for you to consider what the new targets and baselines should be. At the end of the presentation, links are provided in case you are interested in learning more about what Indicator 6 measures. Indicator 6 looks at the percentage of children with IEPs or individualized education programs who receive most of their educational services and support in A, regular preschool settings, B, separate special education settings, or C, home-based education settings. 6C, home-based education setting, is a new sub-indicator. Why is Indicator 6 important? As required by the Individuals with Disability Education Act of 2004, to the maximum extent possible, children with and without disabilities should be taught in the same general education classroom, also known as the least restrictive environment, or LRE. This inclusive environment benefits children with and without disabilities. For example, according to the National Association for the Education of Young Children, inclusive classrooms provide opportunities for children without disabilities to develop empathy and compassion and act as peer models for children with disabilities. Furthermore, positive outcomes for children with disabilities in inclusive classrooms have been found to include reduced severity of autism, increased language development, and increased social skills. With that said, Indicator 6 has traditionally looked at two learning environments: inclusive environment with children without disabilities, and separate classrooms for children with disabilities. Indicator 6C, home-based educational services, was added to measure the extent to which home environment is an educational setting for young children with disabilities, since for many, the home is the least restrictive and most appropriate learning environment. Because of the new sub-indicator, DESE needs to set new targets and baselines. For the new federal fiscal year 2020 to 2025 State Performance Plan Annual Performance Report, two changes were made to Indicator 6. First, a new sub-indicator was introduced. The new sub-indicator 6C looks at the percentage of preschool children whose educational environment is the home. The second change is that states now have the option to set targets for each age: targets for 3-year-olds, targets for 4-year-olds, and targets for 5-year-olds, or states can set a single target for the whole group of 3, 4, and 5-year-olds in preschool for each sub-indicator. Because of the Indicator 6 changes, DESE needs to set new targets and baselines. Now let's focus on setting new targets. According to the Office of Special Education Programs, or OSEP, states have the option of setting targets for each age group, one target for each sub-indicator per age, or a single target per sub-indicator for all the age groups combined. The expectation is that over time, the percentage of preschool children with disabilities in regular preschool settings will go up from one year to the next, since again, inclusive preschool settings are most beneficial for children with and without disabilities. And the percentage of children with disabilities in separate special education settings will go down from one year to the next, since special education settings are segregated and more restrictive. Home-based setting 6C is dependent on what is most appropriate and least restrictive for 3 to 5-year-olds with disabilities. This is the current state data for Indicator 6. The data were populated with the changes in mind. For 6A, the percentage of children with disabilities receiving most of their services in a general education classroom increased from 53.7% in the 2017-2018 school year to 54.6 in the 2019-2020 school year, but then decreased to 52.8% in the 2020-2021 school year, the most recent year when we slowly transitioned back to in-person learning. For 6B, the percentage of children with disabilities receiving most of their services in separate special education setting decreased from 17.9% in the 2017-2018 school year to 16.6% in the 2018-2019 school year. However, the percentage increased to 18.2% in the 2019-2020 school year and to 19.5% in the 2020-2021 school year. For 6C, the percentage of children with disabilities receiving most of their services in the home remained the same at 0.1% from 2017 through 2021. With that said, the current state target for 6A, regular preschool setting, is 50.0%, and 6B, separate special education setting, is 12.40%. And Massachusetts does not have an existing target for 6C, home setting, since it is a new sub-indicator. What do you think? Should DESE keep the same targets until schools are back to normal? Should the new targets be the average performance of the last 3 years? Should DESE set targets for each age group or targets for the whole preschool group of children with disabilities? Now let's take a look at the baselines for indicator 6. The baseline is a starting place. Because 6C, home setting, is new, DESE also needs to set new baselines for indicator 6. With that said, the current baseline for 6A, regular preschool setting, is 23.90%, and 6B, separate special education setting, is 14%. Again, there is not an existing baseline for 6C, home setting, since it is a new sub-indicator. What do you think? Should the new baselines be identified using a more normal school year like 2018-2019? Should the new baselines be identified based on the most recent school year's data like 2020-2021? If you would like more information relevant to indicator 6, please see the resources on this slide.